€2. Charleville block, slices and grated range, also just €2. And Dunnes Stores cooked Carvery ham 120 gram, an incredible €2. Plus, with our 10 off 50 grocery voucher, you save even more. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next grocery shop of €50 or more.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Only the cream of the crop pick up Champions League medals. Jonathan Greening's got one. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Second half just about to get underway in Tala. Ireland still trailing Denmark by 1-0. It is Thursday evening at 7:30. Delighted to say John Giles is on the line. Evening, John.
Evening, Adrian.
How are you keeping?
I'm good, thank you.
Great to chat with you, and particularly after such an interesting week in the Champions League. We might kick things off with Liverpool, and 3-1 down, obviously, ahead of their quarter-final return leg next Wednesday. We'll give it a proper try, was what Klopp said after the game. Is there any way back for them?
Yeah, I wouldn't write them off, Adrian. I think it was a bad night for them. I thought in the first half they played very, very poorly and picked it up in the second half. Madrid were better than I expected them to be. But when they were winning I think it was 2-1, they got a bit negative and started to sit back. And if they do that at Liverpool, then they'll be inviting Liverpool on, and I would give Liverpool a chance. So they have to have the attitude in Liverpool to get at Liverpool, because when they did that, they did it well. But we saw, Barcelona a couple of years ago. I know the crowd was there and all that, and they really got nervous on it on the night and gave it away. Liverpool played well, so I wouldn't write them off, but I wouldn't be putting any money on them either.
Klopp was saying afterwards we made it too easy for Madrid. I'm not sure was he taking responsibility for it or not. One of the biggest talking points out of it, John, was that he started Naby Keita instead of Thiago, and had spoken afterwards about how Keita had really pressed in training. Was a serious leap from his only other Champions League start of the season, which was a nothing game against Midtjylland in the earlier rounds. What's your sense of, it backfired on him big time, obviously. What's your sense of that dynamic of a player who's done really well in training and an unlikely starter suddenly forces his way in?
Never believed in it, Adrian. Never. I've seen lads in my time, played with him and heard about them playing against him, where they're great in training and they come on a Saturday and they don't do it. I had experience out of it with Leeds when we had the great Leeds team. Jack Charlton and Billy Bremner were probably two of the worst trainers you've ever seen in your life.
Right.
Bremner would doing a circuit, or around the ground. He used to say, "I thought this was just for show on the Saturday." Now, the track around the ground. He said, "I never believed it was for running." Right, and Big Jack wasn't the best either. But Bremner, once he got a ball out, right, then he was buzzing around the place. And of course, there's a ball on the Saturday or Wednesday, whenever you're playing, he'd be buzzing around like nobody's business. So, but if you saw him as a stranger in training, you said, "I've never played that fella." And Big Jack wasn't the best either. But when they got out on the pitch on Saturday when it mattered, that's the way. I've never ever been. I've seen it where people have judged people in training, and it never worked. It's what you do on the pitch. I've heard about trainers, and they go out on the pitch, brilliant. That's the way it is. So actually, he took him off before half time, didn't he? So, but I'm surprised at him making the statement, and such an experienced and brilliant manager, that he could be impressed by somebody in training.
Is it a sign of a greater impulsiveness that's coming from the pressure that he's under at the minute, John? That he might have been very unlikely to do that if he was more confidence in himself or his players, if things have been going a little bit better. Is it a bit of a bit trigger happy almost?
Well, it could be. Adrian. That's a good point. He might say, "Well, God, he's gone. The team is not playing well. Thiago is not playing that well. So I'll give him a go." But if you look at Klopp last year when they were going brilliantly, he made very, very few changes in it because you just let it run, So no, I'm surprised he even said it afterwards. It's a well-known thing in football: never judge anybody in training. That's my take on it. Now there might be other men who say, "Yeah, he's going well in training," but training and playing in the big matches two different things altogether. As I said, I've seen in my time, I've seen lads brilliant training. There was one lad particularly I won't mention, played in the Irish team. In training, he was absolutely brilliant, and play him on the match day, didn't see him. You know, there's the crowd and there's everything that's involved in it, and how the importance of the game and the nerves and that. Whereas training, you know, there's no nerves in training or anything, Adrian. You go out and do a few tricks and do things that you wouldn't do on the Saturday. Well, you wouldn't want to do anyway. So I'm surprised at him making that statement and doing what he did.
Yeah, and even in terms of Thiago, like, I mean, a Champions League winner not that long ago, must be looking at that going, I mean, you don't fully trust me here. If you did, you would know that I'm going to do my stuff at the weekend or during the week. Oh,
definitely. But funny enough, when Keita was coming off, he was really upset about it, and I don't blame him. You know, he was off before half time. And, you know, that's what he'd be saying. Well, you put me on, but you're not giving me a chance to do anything. So I don't think Klopp worries about that too much anyway, falling out with the players, Adrian, to be quite honest. Yeah. You know, I think that runs off him. But there'd be two people upset. Keita would be upset for being taken off, and Thiago would be upset for not playing in the first place. So it doesn't do any good. But the team didn't play well anyway. I mean, Alexander, as we know, made a terrible mistake when he was at fault for one of the, along with the centre half, for one of the other goals as well.
Nat Phillips, yeah.
And the goalkeeper might have done better for the third one. That's the night that was in it. But you know, I think Madrid were better than I expected them to be, Adrian. You know, now, whether they can do it at Anfield remains to be seen. There was a point in the game, I'll just repeat myself here, to say that, you know, they sat back when they were 2-0 up and then 2-1 up. And that's not a good sign. Now, they got a breakaway goal to make it 3-1, which flattered them a little bit. So, again, I wouldn't write Liverpool off. It'll depend on Madrid and how they approach the game.
Your point there about Madrid and did you say, sorry, John, that you were surprised almost by how dominant in some ways that they were? Does Zidane oddly not get enough credit, like in the same way that Pep would, or Jose in his prime? Like, given what he's won and what he's achieved, people sort of tend to write it off as he's got this amazing team of Galacticos, as Pep would or Jose would have had at the various clubs that he's done phenomenally well at. But Zidane doesn't seem to get the same credit. Is that fair enough?
I'd say, yeah. I think that's a good assessment of it. He's a quiet fella. Now, to be fair, Guardiola is a quiet. I don't think he blows his own trumpet at all. But Zidane might have got the impression. I think, did they win before he came in? Were they winning anyway?
Yeah,
Adrian. You know, they might have been winning anyway. They might have won the Champions League before somebody was left out. Was it Ancelotti at one stage won it? Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember actually in what situation he took over the team. You know, it could be, well, they were winning anyway.
Yeah, they hadn't been going that well, I think, before the second coming, as it were.
Yeah. But he's done a huge job, and he's been a great player as well. But he's never blown his own trumpet, and I think he's probably doing better this year than people expected, or maybe he's done better in the years than people expected him to do, and then took it for granted, which can happen in football. But I mean, they're not supposed to be doing all that well this year, like Liverpool. In the Liverpool situation, they were by far the better team over the 90 minutes. There's no doubt about that. But can they take it to Liverpool? Remains to be seen. I wouldn't write Liverpool off entirely, but the odds would be very high against them. Yeah,
high against them, yeah. City, how impressed were you by their effort and particularly that sort of relatively late concession to the Rouse goal, and then showing that grit and the quality of the way it was taken by Foden, but showing that grit to get back into it, John, and get their noses back ahead?
Well, they did well to do that, Adrian, there's no doubt. But again, I wouldn't write off Borussia Dortmund. I thought they played well. You know, the two young players. They've got Bellingham. Don't forget, I thought it was a terrible mistake in the match for Bellingham not to get a penalty in that.
Yeah.
You know, like they gave City a really good game, and they've gotten Erling Haaland. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Adrian, he's going to be one of the greats. And Bellingham looked very, very good as well. They did better, or played better, Borussia Dortmund than I expected them to. And I thought City got out of jail a bit. So I certainly wouldn't write off this Dortmund team going into the second leg.
Yeah, you mentioned Haaland, and maybe he had a somewhat quiet night, maybe by his own standards, and even at that, threatened on a couple of occasions. But you were very impressed, I know, by him and by Mbappe again, the two most talked about footballers on the planet. But I'm very impressed with them again during the week.
Oh, brilliant. They're both of them brilliant. But I think Haaland. Look, I haven't seen that much of them, Adrian. But I think Haaland could be the better of the two from what I've seen.
Really?
You know, he links it up better. Well, they're both. I think both going to be great players. They're terrific now, but I think Haaland might be a little bit better.
Yeah.
But that's saying a lot now. That's saying a lot for him in relation to Mbappe, who was also terrific.
He's the full package, Haaland, isn't he? He's got pretty much everything, including the size.
Who's that, Haaland?
Haaland, yeah.
Yeah, he has, and he's left-footed lad, as we see. But brings other people into the game. You know, he lays the ball off. He's unbelievably quick going through on his own and control. So he's got everything really, and seems to have the right attitude for it as well. Adrian, you know, his father was a professional footballer, and I'm sure he'd bring him up in the way in that respect. But he certainly looks the part, and quick, control, lays it off at the right time. I haven't seen much of him, very little of him, but I certainly liked a lot. I liked him a lot. What I did see of him, I think he'll get better and better. And Bellingham is a good kid as well.
Very good.
You know, he's only 17. So Adrian. So you know, this is not going to be an easy one for City.
And Haaland could be suited to the English game, John, almost given the attributes that he has. I know his agent's been touting out around Barcelona, and I'm sure those games will go on over the next while, but certainly seems to have the physique and the qualities that would do well in England. Oh, definitely.
I think it, nowadays it's no easy place in Germany either, Adrian. You know, so I think either of them, Mbappe, would be sensational. I think they're sensational where they are, and it's high quality football. So they do well. They do well anywhere. Both of them are brilliant.
Yeah, really looking forward to the next 10 years plus watching them, John. There's going to be, I'm sure, some brilliant stuff ahead. Chelsea, we want to touch on them as well. I mean, 2-0 win over Porto during the week, and Tuchel just continues to impress here, doesn't he? He's doing a stellar job with Chelsea.
Well, I think he was relieved to get a win after the Leeds match, Adrian. You know, I think this was their first match after the Leeds match where they got a hiding. Sorry, not Leeds match, West Brom. I'm getting mixed up with my clubs. When West Brom beat them 5-2 only last week. And it wasn't a fluke. I mean, they played exceptionally well and made Chelsea look very, very poor. So I'd say he was a bit concerned going into this particular match. But they did really well. Yeah, they deserve to do it. I think the problem they have at Chelsea is the forwards that they bought before he came into the club are not really doing the business, Adrian. You know, if you look at the other night, the goals he scored, like there was Mount, who has come through the academy there, and Chilwell. Both of them. I mean, Mount has done extremely well, but when you look at Werner and Havertz and Pulisic.
Yeah,
they're not doing it. You know, these guys should be scoring regularly, and they haven't been doing that. So defensively, they've been very good. Apart from the West Brom match, I think they've only lost two goals in all the matches he's been there. So the West Brom was a huge kick up the backside for them. And going into this match again, they not got away with it, but kept a clean sheet and deserved to win. There's no doubt about that. I mean, they deserved. There was a good performance and well deserved to win.
Yeah, hard to know the future for such talented players like that you mentioned there in terms of Chelsea with Havertz and Werner, what the future is for them. But we'll see over the next one.
Yeah, they have to be doing their stuff really. I mean, he's done exceptionally well. I mean, the goals against have been very, very good. So, you know, they need to be scored. They need a Haaland or an Mbappe up there that's going to get you, you know, plenty of goals. And sometimes it's going to come against you. And it certainly did well against Leeds. We'll keep saying Leeds, West Brom, who were exceptionally good on the day.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, he's definitely building there, whether it's with the two lads or not, we shall see. One other thing, John, that we wanted to get your thoughts on was the Keith Andrews was on, the Ireland assistant coach, on Virgin Media during the week, and he was obviously asked about events, obviously with Ireland over the last while. Niall Quinn was on with him and was, fairly forcibly making the point that they got it wrong in terms of team selection, that they leaned too heavily on the youth. They should have had more of a blend of youth and experience, and that it sort of post the Serbia and Luxembourg games that it came in that was proven effectively, but as what he was saying against Qatar. What's your 10 games in, obviously, John, as we know, and still looking for that first win, but what's your sense of the team selection? Would you go with that point about a bit more experience might have done us against Luxembourg and Serbia?
Well, it's difficult to know, Adrian, as we know, because we can say, I can understand Stephen's point of view in when you take over a team. My take on it was from the start, it takes you 8 matches to get to know, at least 8 matches to get to know your best team. And what I'd be a little bit concerned about is that if we had a match tomorrow, I wouldn't know what the best team. I don't think Stephen would know what the best team is. I'd be worried about that, Adrian. You know,
yeah.
Because whether it's the older lads or the younger lads, I mean, we've had a good few matches now to say, well, after 10, 11 matches, well, that's my best team. And to be honest, if we played tomorrow, I'm not so sure what the best team would be. Or I'm more worrying. I'm not sure Stephen would know what the best team is at the moment.
Yeah, Keith was making the point that the younger players that they're looking at, they're the players that are getting a bit more game time at their club. That, you know, if the likes of Shane Long, who obviously came up for discussion, was playing a little bit more for his club, then he'd be more likely to start a bit more often. Do you subscribe to the they'll be old enough if they're good enough theory?
Yes,
you do.
Yes, I would, and I wouldn't subscribe to the theory that if they were playing for their club, that they're not playing for the club, so therefore they're not playing the national team. Over the years, going back to my time, we had players after player after player over the years that weren't regular in their teams, but when they put on the green jersey, as they say, were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Or very, very good. So, I wouldn't relate it to form at club level in relation to form at international level, unless there were two very similar players who were both very good, and one was playing probably more than the other on the Saturday or on their own club. But then you go with that.
Yeah, well, Shane Duffy would be a good case of that, John, as somebody who's really struggling at his club, and then we know what his playing for his country means to him. That maybe ups his game a bit. Yeah,
we've had lots of players over the years who were that type of player. Like I had a player called Paddy. I don't know if you ever remember Paddy Mulligan playing.
Yeah, sure, Chelsea.
Paddy played for Crystal Palace, and then he came with me to West Brom. But in terms, he wouldn't be a consistent player every week in some of the top clubs. And he was a very, very good player at club level. But at international level, he was outstanding.
Yeah.
Ray Tracy was another one, who played first team football, but not at a hugely high level or on a regular basis. But when he played for Ireland, Don Gibbons was good week in, week out. And I'm talking about that's in my time now that I knew well, and I'd pick them even if they weren't in the team, because I knew what they could do on when they're playing for the Irish team.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll see, and the entire country will be hoping we can break that duck at some point. John, pleasure as always. Thanks a million. Look after yourself.
See you, Adrian. Thanks again.
Take care. John Giles there, as always, on a Thursday night. A reminder as well that Football and Off the Ball is with thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, you can visit gamblingcare.ie. We're back after these.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. Ready for your next big move? The trip from the fridge to the couch. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Down to business.
This week on Down to Business, we'll see how the pandemic has created opportunity for a new type of cyber criminal. For this week's industry review, I'll be speaking to 3 contract caterers